But again, the City of Santiago is not reason to not believe in the flat Earth. If you are, it's their baby. You can tell they want people on this flight. It's the only flight that does it. They back it. They have like the same plane each time. It's the same pilots each time. So how about that? Look at the ground speed here. I mean, what do people say about that? This thing's going 700 miles per hour ground speed. 721. I mean, isn't that above the speed of sound at altitude? Let's see. What is 35,000 feet? 35,000 feet speed of sound. I believe it's like 685 or something. I don't know. It's a guess. Yeah, 660. Jaron, planes can't go over the speed of sound. Yeah, they can. So, nobody on the plane would know it. Nobody on the plane would know it. Yes, thank you very much. Kill the Bank is correct. Jet streams do go different directions depending on your height, and they often change 1,000 feet different. So you might have a jet stream going 200 miles per hour one direction at 1,000, at say 37,000 feet, and at 38,000 feet, it goes the other direction. So as you move away on a Mercator map, each area needs to, so if you said this little area is 10 miles, then that 10 miles is going to shrink as you go down. Okay? It would shrink and shrink and shrink. Each time you go down, it's going to shrink. You understand that? Shrink, 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 until you get to the equator. As soon as you get to the equator, everything reverses. Now it's going to start to grow. Till you get back here, and again, this here would be your biggest. If you're going to have a scale, so let's say that we're measuring 100 miles right here. Okay, this little square here is 100 miles. As we work back, and that same scale, what would happen to that 100 miles? Meaning, is this still 100 miles? Is this still 100 miles? Is this still 100 miles? Which direction would it go? Okay, on a flat Earth. These things are going to keep getting bigger as we go out. Okay, I'm sorry, the distance will keep getting. If this is 100 miles, then only this is 100, then only this is 100, then only this is 100, then only this little thing, and then, right? Because that's keep expanding. So let's go look now at what I found. Here is our map. So we're going here, we're starting here, start here, come down, and we'll see that the 200 miles is getting smaller, 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 smaller. Then it switched to 500, means it's still getting smaller, 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 smaller. So here, now we're passing the equator. Why is it still getting smaller? That's all you need to know right there. That means that the south is expanding. You understand? You can cry all you want, Globers, because you've been fooled and you can't realize, you've never thought that it'd be possible and all these fun things. Or you could just suck it up and say, okay, you know what? I don't believe in flat Earth, but these guys have some points, and I think that NASA should have to prove themselves, and I think that they globe, right? So if the North Pole is a point on the globe, then it has the tiniest little space that there is. Yet up here, we have all this North Pole. So do you see what I'm saying? That all this North Pole is actually the equivalent of one little mile. And then as you back away from that, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay. So this distance here is 100 miles. Let me get a little closer. Okay. So we're at 50 miles, right? Meaning that this part of the land is 50 miles, but now we look, watch that thing get smaller. 50 miles, 50 miles, 50 miles getting smaller. Now it's about to open up to a different size, but you'll notice that it's still, we can still pretend that the 50 miles is getting smaller. Watch. 50 miles is now tiny. Okay, now it says 100 miles, but think about it being, so 50 miles is still here. This half, right? So 50 miles is still getting smaller, smaller, smaller. We're at 100 miles. 100 miles is that small. It's getting smaller. Go over here so we can find the equator when we get there, because when we cross the equator, what's supposed to happen? It's getting smaller. It's getting smaller. It's getting smaller. Getting smaller. Getting smaller. We're getting close to the equator, so it's going to start to reverse. Okay, here we are at the, let's go where Ecuador is. Okay, we're at Ecuador. Now, watch this. It's got to get smaller. Now it's got to start going bigger. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What's happening? And actually, if you look at it, it is getting smaller. Until when? Until it runs out of land, and then it starts getting bigger. So they've lied to us so much that the scale of maps actually has to adjust for the flat Earth, not for the globe. The flat Earth is the only one that would cause you to have to change that scale on your way out to the globe doesn't work. Hate to tell you. So if we can look at boats. Don't save. Let me go bring up the fleet finder. Okay. So right away, I want to see, where's these boats traveling out here? This one here. Here's the Nordic Oasis. Here's the Nordic Oasis. First of all, let's click this to get the track. Here's its track. Okay, this boat is coming from up here. Coming from up here. Okay, let's look at when it took off. Its estimated time, its actual time of departure was March 15th, and it says here 19 days ago. Do you see that? When will it get to its location? It will get there. By the way, it's going to South America somewhere, right? It's Ushuaia. Anyway, you'll see here that it says it's going to be there in 18 days. So it's been traveling for 19 days, and it's going to get there in 18 days. So that's a total of what? 19 plus 18 is going to be 27, 37 days? 37 days. These boats do not stop. They're piloted at all times. They don't just sit out in the ocean for nap breaks. They travel the whole time. It says here that its speed is 12.4 miles per hour. Great. If you're moving 12.5 times 24 hours in a day, you are going 300 miles a day. This guy is going 300 miles a day for 18 plus 19 is 27 days. Times 27 days equals 8,100 miles. Okay, so you'll start to notice that we've got a problem. That is not an 8,100 mile track. Okay, it's not. But we can find all these boats, and when we start doing the calculations on them, something is terribly wrong. These boats do not get the distances that they say in the amount of time. They're always late, and there's a reason. Here we can just bring up any of these ships and look at the speed that they're going. First of all, I will call into contention all these speeds. I think these boats go faster because you can find them in the north. Why in the north do they go faster? So this boat came from up here, right? Now look at, this is your great circle route. This is what the globe requires you to travel if you're going to take the shortest path. If we take distances and we measure distances, let's say we wanted to go from here to the, here. Look at the place. Look at how it goes. So none of these boats are even taking the great circle route that you say is required of all planes and boats. Take the great circle route. That's how they do it. But none of them do. I wonder why. It's because it's ludicrous. And no boat's going to go down here when it doesn't need to. Look how fast these boats are going. Look at these big ass boats and how fast they go. This boat goes 12.3 miles per hour. Did you know that the world record holder for the around the world trip, what do they call it? Van Globe, came back at like 5 miles per hour. Oh, broke all the records here. It'd be like somebody telling me, Jaron, somebody just broke the around the earth on a freeway, contest. It'd be like, oh, really? How fast are they going? 42 miles per hour. So what do you mean? 40, but cars can go way faster. Yeah, that's what the record is. Well, why doesn't somebody just go 50 and break it? That's what it's like in the boats. Why doesn't somebody go down there and go 10? Why isn't one of these tankers go down south and break the world record for around the earth? If you can go 12.3 miles per hour, then you can break the record, go around the earth. They won't do it. Why? Because when they go down there and do it, all of a sudden their speed will come out a lot slower. Why? Because it's a lot more distance. Around the earth on the outside track is probably 55,000 miles, 50,000 miles. So when a boat, even if it goes 12.3 miles per hour, comes down here and starts going around the south, all of a sudden they're going to be reporting that they're going much, much slower. And nobody's smart enough to speak out, I guess. They all know the deal. They all know the deal. Because if they were, they would just speak out and say, hey, we actually are moving much faster than this is telling us. Again, all speed is based off of what? What is speed? Distance over time. So if your distance is wrong, your speed is wrong. Period. That's why those boats come back and they look like they're going so slow. They are not going slow. They're moving much, much, much faster. You don't see anybody following the actual path that they should. If you ever look at these maps and you try and look at the undersea cables, you can bend the map into a flat earth map and it doesn't break any of the cables. It cannot be a coincidence that we have no south cruise ships, that we have no south undersea cables, that the South has reports all throughout the early 1900s of being lost, of being reckoned off, to being 12 miles off. Captain Cook, 12 miles off a day. Why? It's because they lied to them. I think they took Captain Cook's books, they took his journey, and they rewrote it in a globe fashion.